Hi everyone. Because my videographer is out of town, it kind of limits what I can do this week. So I decided to do a shohin bonsai, because that way I can get the whole tree within the camera frame without having to constantly move around and reposition the camera. So I actually started out with the pot. The pot came first. I was at my local bonsai nursery and I found this beautiful little oval pot. I don't know whether it's Chinese or Japanese, but it's just beautiful. The texture of the clay is very fine. It's got this very smooth aspect, and I thought, what a wonderful pot. And originally I was thinking, well, I can put an accent plant in this for one of my larger trees for the show, but then the more I started handling the pot and looking at it, I started thinking I'd like to put a really small bonsai in there, and a little juniper would be perfect. Then I walked over and found that at my bonsai nursery they had shimpaku junipers in 4-inch pots. And the beauty part of this is this project did not cost a lot of money. These 4-inch shimpakus were $10 each. This is the one that I chose, and I chose this one because it had the most character. And then this pot I think was maybe $15 or thereabouts, maybe a little bit more than that. But either way, we're going to be somewhere well under $30 when we get done with this project. So let's have a look at our little juniper. Now, it originally struck me that this would make a pretty good windswept, but this isn't really the right pot for a windswept. And since I chose the pot before the tree, what we're really thinking is some kind of nice flowing informal upright kind of a tree with this branch here as the main branch, and then counterbalancing and bring the top back this way, and it'll all work out somehow. So let's start out by getting the shears and cleaning up this juniper a little. Now this is nice and easy to do here because unlike with a larger tree, I can just tilt the thing as much and whenever and however I need, and we can just cut away at it. So we'll take off everything that's hanging down, and I'm going to use the shears for the bigger, thicker stuff here. We don't want to take off too much or take off anything that's going to be part of the future tree. Okay, there's a little sub-branch that won't be part of it. And then we have this thick branch here that I have to decide what to do with. So what we're going to do now is kind of work on cleaning the tree up. And after we clean it up, then we'll see about branch selection and wire. I had a look at the tree. I've selected my first and back branches and my tentative front. This is going to be, it's going to tilt like this a little. This will be our first branch. This big one here is going to end up being a back branch. And now I've got to kind of work out the rest of the tree. Now generally, you're going to take off everything that's going to be on the inside of the curve unless you get a really well-shaped and well-structured branch that you can redirect. So all this little growth in here that's on this part of the trunk, because it's going to be curving back in here, we can take all of this out. This one may be a keeper, I don't know yet. And a lot of this can just be finger plucked out of here because it's small and fine enough. That's going to work better than with the shears. So we just keep cleaning it here and then figure out where the rest of our branches are. Now this thing is not going to be a totally finished looking tree when we're done with it. This is too low to save. And then We've got some down-hanging stuff on our new first branch that's also got to go bye-bye. So we'll just keep working on this. We're almost ready to throw a little wire on this tree, so let's do just exactly that. Close to having it clean enough. Now, it's nice if you can pinch off these shoots by hand, close to the trunk, get it nice and clean, but if you can't, then you have to use the shears, because there's just no better way to do it. Because this is a small tree, we're trying to be really precise with branch placement. There's a lot less room for error on the small ones than there is on the large ones. Okay, so now let's take some wire. I checked this earlier, tried it for strength, and then we'll go maybe about that long. Set that aside, and hopefully this is going to be strong enough to take care of that upper trunk. The lower trunk doesn't need to be bent. It already has really nice character just the way that it is, but the upper trunk needs to be kind of brought back across. Now these shimpakus are very slow growing, so it's okay to wire tightly, and you can plan on leaving the wire on for a couple of years before it needs to come off. Okay, so we'll go around these branches. The only reason I'm being careful here is because I know in order to place the little branches, I'm going to have to put a lot of smaller, finer wire in here, and the wiring can get a mite crowded if you're not careful. Okay, so far so good. Might be time to transition to a smaller wire here soon, if we're going to keep at this. It'll be a few years before these fine shoots on the upper trunk grow out enough to be branches. Okay, so that's our main wire. Now let's see if this thing's really strong enough to bring the upper trunk in to where we want it to be. This one is going to have quite a curve to it. Okay, so the next step is we've got to wire the two largest branches, the back branch and the main branch. Boy, this thing's really going to be far more interesting than I thought it would be. And it's going to lose a couple more branches along the development process. Okay, let's try this same size wire for these other branches and see if it'll work. So now we go from here and try not to pinch the foliage. just keep at this until we get the branch wide. Now these sub branches are too small to be wired, so I don't have to worry too much about placing additional wire on this branch. So here's our little tree after pruning and wiring. Now let's take it out of this plastic pot and get it potted up in the bonsai pot. We don't need a garden cultivator for this one. Bonsai rake will work just fine for breaking down the soil. And because it's from a bonsai nursery, the soil it's been grown in is pretty good soil as well. Now, the interesting thing is we've got a little bit more trunk here than we thought we did. And we don't really have any thick major roots, so we're not going to have to take much off the root ball to get it to fit in the bonsai pot. We'll just come down here. This is going to work out very nicely. Now we just want to take off some of the matted roots down at the bottom. We're already getting some white feeder root there. Okay, so we'll just do a little bit of trimming here. If I'd have been planning better, I would have brought a tub to dump the old soil in, but that's life. Okay, we need just a tiny bit of trimming on the front and the back to fit in the oval pot. That wire, we run it through the bottom of the pot. Now we'll add soil back in. We're going to do a much thinner layer than that so that the tree sits down in the pot real nice. Okay, that's snug and tight. Now we can move it over. Now we can't do too much positioning it off center when we wire it in because it impairs our ability to tie it into the pot. So try to scoot it over to this side as much as we can so that it balances in the pot. And now looking at it, I'm thinking maybe we can tip the first branch a little. Yeah, that's a much more balanced appearance. Now eventually, when the root pad is shaped to fit the pot and we don't have to wire it in, we can move it even farther over the side, but that's in the future. So let's get some bonsai mix in here around it. So, here is our little shohin shimpaku Juniper Bonsai. It's a beautiful little tree, and it didn't take a lot of time or money to create it. And it'll give you something beautiful in your garden that you can enjoy for the rest of your lifetime, or at least for many, many years to come. So let's do our slow 360 and show you what it looks like. Thank you for watching, folks.